I try to be regular.
I thought maybe when you said you headed to Lincoln, you went to the state track meet.
Uh, I did that for many a moon as a track coach, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's at Burke Stadium. My stepson sent me a picture of their press box in that. I hadn't seen the reconstruction of it. Boy, it's really beautiful.
Oh,
So, yeah, it's
okay. I haven't seen that either, so
yeah.
may have to check that out.
And he
So,
thought it was even a year ago or possibly even 2 years ago that they did that, but I hadn't been there since my granddaughter was a senior, so that was 3 years ago.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no. It's a fun place to be.
Yeah,
So, but
I
yeah.
went like 29 years in a row. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm hoping next year we restart that tradition. So, did it
that'd be
with the
good. It's fun to
daughters
go
and
down there. Yeah.
yeah. Two grandkids will be freshmen next year and they both enjoy track. So,
So a number of
so
years ago they
hoping,
split it where like A and B are the first 2 days and then C and D the Friday and Saturday. I always
yeah,
liked when everybody was there at once, but it makes sense to spread
yeah,
it out though. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that may be the only time these two grandkids ever compete at the same track meet. So,
Well, that'd
um,
be fun.
yeah, a class A and a
Hopefully they'll
class
get
B
there for
school.
you.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know, but hopefully they're ending their eighth grade year in a positive note. So, with some excitement. So,
That's good.
hopefully they'll continue. So, well, I
Yeah.
see we're starting to be joined by several
Got
people.
a bunch
So,
now.
want to
Yeah.
welcome all them. So, hang around as long as you can, Val, okay?
I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome and hello to all of you who've joined us. Kelvin, thanks for being here. And Blue, is that correct? Am I saying that right? Okay.
Yes, that is
So,
correct.
okay, welcome. So, yeah, as people are joining us here, just we'll hang out for a few more minutes until 2 o'clock. And as Sherry gets our slides up here, so hopefully weather is doing well where all of you are. Christine, hello. So Sarah and Bess, Matt, Susan, Anita. So welcome. Some familiar names. And so thanks for taking time for today to join us. We'll get our slides up and David, welcome. So this is one of my favorite questions. I think I've asked this 3 years in a row in the month of May, but um, part of HomeNE's purpose is to become a learning network and to get connected with each other. So my question for you again here in May is your name and where did you graduate high school from? Um, I'm an old Ansley Warrior graduate. They are now the Spartans with Litchfield, but back in the day we were the Warriors, and I will not share the year, but tell us in the chat box or open your microphone, what is your high school um, anchor? Where did you graduate from high school? Because it is the season of high school and college graduations.
Lori, I graduated from Texhoma, Oklahoma, but it is the only Oklahoma high school accredited by the state of Texas. There you
Okay,
go.
that that is one that I would have to think through. Texoma from Oklahoma,
Yeah,
but
we lived
accredited
in
by
Texas.
Texas.
We lived in Texas, but the school system, the town was split, and half the schools in Oklahoma and half in Texas. And so that's the only thing that Oklahoma and Texas can agree on. That was always the joke. So as
Okay,
Texas residents, we didn't have to drive 20 miles to high school. We got to go across town and it was accredited and I don't know, approved by the Texas legislature.
okay, good, thank you. Val is from Pennsylvania, Bentworth High School. Jessica says Newman Grove. We've got Perkins
I don't know.
County
Can you
in
hear me
Grant.
at all?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I was punting with some equipment I've never used before. So I
Oh,
actually
okay.
I'm from Arvada, Colorado, which no one's ever heard of, and graduated
Never.
from Pomona High School, the
Okay.
Panthers, and I am proud to say class of 1880, not 18, how about 1981? That would have really been bad.
That
1981.
sounds great. So, and I have actually heard of Arvada, Colorado. So, yeah.
Coach hockey against Arvada.
Pardon me?
I used to coach hockey against Arvada.
No kidding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Please don't
who
say
is the
Wheat Ridge.
coach?
I was over at Family Sports Center.
Oh,
I
sure.
helped develop the program, the Arapahoe Warriors.
There you go. Huh, how about that? Yeah.
Okay.
And that's how we always knew who the visitors were. They would call us Arvada. So
Arvada.
sorry, Lori.
That's okay. I
I
see
come,
we've got
I
a
come
graduate.
from I've come from a small town in mid-Wisconsin called Antigo.
Okay.
You're the Antigo Red Robins.
Oh,
Our high school.
okay. The Red Robins. Interesting. So, as I'm looking here, we've got a graduate from Bruning, Nebraska, Warner High School in Northeast South Dakota. So, quite the plethora here. Bruning was 1995. So, yeah, maybe you can make a connection with a fellow alumnus here through HomeNE today as people continue to answer our questions. So, fun. Okay. Well, it is 2:01, so I think we'll go ahead and get started and we'll let people continue to join us. Zoom allows us to arrive at the last minute. So, but anyway, oh, Jeff, I'll acknowledge here you're from Logan High School in Kansas. Thanks for joining and sharing that. So, welcome. This is our May 2026 edition of HomeNE. You all know me by now, but if you don't, I'm Lori Ferguson and I'm with South Central Economic Development District in Holdridge, Nebraska is our location. We're an economic development district that not only serves a 13 county area with 85 communities, but we are also the lead agent for the HomeNE Learning Network. So I hear that we have several first timers today, so welcome to all of you. And also a welcome to many of you who've been here faithfully. I think we're 91 or 92 webinars now, but we started HomeNE in 2017. It's a network that is geared towards housing in the rural communities, and we provide both face-to-face as well as, online opportunities for the individuals to gather together to foster interaction and engagement among each of you. So, wanted to know a couple things here today. What interests you about today's topic? In our session before our 2 o'clock webinar with Kelvin, our speaker, he said he was getting some text messages from people about today. So what is it of interest to you about Kelvin's topic today? So feel free to enter that into your chat box and we'll acknowledge and see those. But also on the right-hand side of your screen, I have listed some agreements. If you've ever joined us in person, when we were doing in-person HomeNE events, we would always start the day by talking briefly through agreements. And so I thought it might be just something good to bring about to all of you today to share with you. And thank you to my friends at Dakota Resources for reminding me of these. But as you participate today, we want you to just listen to the presentation by Kelvin with curiosity. Be thinking to yourself, what might we be able to do? Or what if we were trying to do something like Kelvin and his organization are doing? Share, pay your knowledge and experience forward by connecting with others, either today, whether it's over where did you graduate from high school, or if you hear somebody talk about what's going on in their community, reach out to them. and share among each other what's going on in your communities. Offer what you can. Not all of us have all the answers. So if there's something you'd like to share, feel free to do that today. We'd love to hear the microphones open. So also ask for what you need. If you need assistance about a topic or a question or anything, reach out either during the presentation or after today's presentation. That's what we're here for, to connect people together. Share courageously. It's not easy to always be on screen or on microphone, but we want to learn from each other. So we encourage you to share today. So, and also just be present. And that's one of the great things about this group. So those are our agreements for our hour together today. So our guest today is Kelvin Izagira. I hope I did justice to that, Kelvin. So I'm going to turn it over to him here shortly. But first of all, thank you, Kelvin, for being willing to present today. I know time is very valuable to all of you, so we appreciate anybody who takes time out of their day to join us and present. He is with the NeighborWorks Northeast Nebraska. He's the Chief Operating Officer. And NeighborWorks is a community-based organization working to provide home ownership opportunities to individuals. So, Kelvin, would you take a moment and introduce yourself, and then we'll have you get started.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here, and I'd love to share our experience. So Kelvin with NeighborWorks Northeast Nebraska, as Lori said, and I wanted to kind of share this story about how this project came together, just because it's been such a challenging project for so many different reasons, and you'll kind of see. So it's called Developing Housing Through Modular Housing Innovation. And really the tagline that goes along with it is turning challenges into opportunities in Northeast Nebraska. And that's really what I want to focus on. It's something that became extremely challenging for a little bit there. And anybody who's in affordable housing understands that it is one of the hardest things to solve out there. I've been doing this for about 10 years now, a little over a decade at this point, which is crazy to say, but there's just no easy solution to housing. I think the solution overall is just innovation and trying to do new things as we move forward and as the environment kind of changes for everybody. So with that said, I'm going to jump into the presentation so I respect everybody's time. And so I want to start off by kind of setting a framework, which is first and foremost, I've never done a presentation over Zoom, so I can't read the crowd. So forgive me if I'm not kosher here, but I'm going to do the best I can. Talking to my computer, it seems like. So I wanted to frame this by kind of stating that we were both the developer on this and the builder, kind of, sort of. So developer, we partnered with two other entities, Mesner Development and Progressive Builders. And those are, we came together and formed an LLC, and then we kind of started with bare ground. It was farmland there in the middle of the city, and then we kind of developed the land. And then the second portion of that is we're also the builder / we're putting the houses in there, into the land and making sure that those houses are affordable units. All right, let's get started. Sherry, on that. There we go. Try not to be trigger happy here. Well, that's odd. Okay, there we go. So it all started with a vision. Of course, like every other project in the world, everything has a vision. We set out to build affordable homes, and we wanted to kind of meet the housing demand that was out there during the time. So families in our communities needed that affordable housing, and the plan was pretty clear to all of us, right? Build affordable housing, let's go for it. And then everything kind of changed. And there you could kind of see in my little depiction there that we were all at a loss there. We weren't sure what was going on. everything was upside down and things got a little bit crazy. So I'm trying to get to the next slide. Thank you, Sherry. She's the backup. So COVID-19 kind of happened. So this is when the world really changed for us. And I wanted to kind of put what makes a person go into modular housing when everything else was working just fine, right? So with COVID-19 came a lot of nuance. So there's a lot of things that we started to explore that were completely new. And out of all of that, that's when we felt the pressure and started to get in trouble, right? Material prices skyrocketed. I think it was like a 1,400% increase in costs. There were labor shortages all over the place. Timelines kind of stretched beyond anything we ever thought was the worst case scenario. So what used to take months started taking years. And I have that in quotes because I heard that everywhere that I went to during this time period. Things just took forever. You needed, there's such shortages in supply and everything that it was just very impossible to do and get anything. So that was kind of the pressure that held us together to try to figure out what are we going to do, you know? Sherry, can we go to the next slide? For some reason, I don't have control over my slides, so I'm trying to figure that out. So we had to kind of come to the conclusion is, could we still deliver affordable homes? Could we meet the funding timelines that we had? So along with this, we had a Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund grant that we were going to provide down payment assistance with. And then could traditional construction work? So these were the main questions that we were asking ourselves at the time, and we had to find a solution for. Oh. So exploring solutions. So looking for a better way. So we actually explored all sorts of things across the whole housing spectrum, right? We looked at 3D printing houses. We looked at the SIP houses with the insulation that comes in them. Eventually, we landed on the modular homes, and we started to explore that. So we did a lot of research on modular homes, what they were, how they functioned, and all of that. And we had four main focuses, but three that we really wanted to nail down, which was speed, the cost stability, because at the time prices were just crazy. They're going up and down almost daily. And then we wanted scalability. We wanted to be able to build all of these homes at a very short time. So the fourth thing we kind of focused on was, can this actually work in rural Nebraska? Those who work in rural Nebraska know that sometimes the resources aren't there yet, and we have to make them work somehow. So this is innovative and all, but we have to really figure out, can this actually work here in rural Nebraska? So what we started to do was learn about the industry. So we got out there, and I'm sure I saw in the chat in the comments that a lot of you are looking at modular homes and doing all of that. All of us start here. We toured multiple factories across Nebraska. We compared the quality, the flexibility, the timeline, how long does it take to get there. So the main thing being here is we actually learned by doing, not just by reading all of this. So we went out there and we looked at it ourselves. We crawled underneath of the homes that they had in the factories, looked at everything that was in there to make sure that it met our standards. And we're very fortunate at NeighborWorks Northeast Nebraska to have very experienced housing managers. So Mitch has been with us like through 23, 24 years, building homes, stick built, every type of home that you can think of. And Rena, who's been here about 16 years. So that worked out really great. They got under the chassis, if you will, and they checked everything on those homes and made sure it was to the quality that we wanted them to be. So what is modular? So, and I really want to emphasize this because there's so much confusion around it. So it's built on a controlled factory environment, transported and assembled on site. So it comes to the site. It meets local and state building codes, and it's less impacted by weather delays. So if there's huge storms or anything like that, it doesn't matter. It's all inside, and they're still building and pumping those out. So why modular kind of made sense for us. the turning point for us was it was more predictable pricing. During that time, the prices were going up and down. The faster production timeline. So we lost a lot of time on our grant just by not being able to find the right contractors and everything that went along with that. It really reduced that labor dependency, which we had a huge shortage during that COVID time, and then greater control during uncertainty, which to me at the time was very important. Okay, so finding the right partner. So who do you pick, right? You have so many different manufacturers of modular. So all I know is that we needed flexibility and not just your standard model. We needed a partner who was willing to really collaborate with us. And so we ended up going to Bonnevilla, and they're located in Aurora, Nebraska, and they had a strong quality reputation. And the most important thing to us was the willingness to modify the plan to meet our needs. So they weren't just offering the homes, they were offering solutions. Because we went there, we looked at all of the plans that they had, and a lot of them, I'm not going to mention any names, but most of the other ones said, no, we're not going to do that. Whereas Bonnevilla was actually willing to look at our plans, and then they were willing to make it work for our communities. So they adapted to our new layout, and there were small tweaks to the layout, but we wanted it to look a certain way. And then it was also affordable, and then they were also committed to our vision, and they put their expertise to make sure that our vision worked. So they tweaked their plans a little bit. Everybody we talked to before that wasn't willing to do that. We wanted to do some stick-built garages on there to make the houses look a little bit different. A little bit of curve appeal that went on the roof line, just to make sure that we're doing a few touches here and there to separate the house from being stigmatized with a manufactured home or anything else. So and the implementation for Bonnevilla is the homes are built in the factory, and then they're delivered in semi-trucks to the site, and then they're set and finished locally within each independent community that you go to. So on the developer side of things, collaborating with the city leadership is huge, right? You have to align and develop your goals. And huge kudos to the city of Columbus. This had never been done in the city of Columbus, and it was a whole new challenge for everybody. And they were willing to go out there with us and look at the homes at Bonnevilla, see the quality, make sure they were being done right. They all met the standards that they were wanting to do. And the city leadership was just outstanding, from city administrator, economic development, to the city council. All of them were very receptive and very supportive in us taking this on. And you have to remember that we're not just building subdivisions alone. We are building them with our cities. I realize that sometimes you go and builders sometimes get upset with cities, but it's difficult to work on some codes and some things sometimes, but coming together and working as partners, it's amazing. And we're just a little bit spoiled with the city of Columbus. I do realize some of the other cities are a little bit harder there, but it was just such an amazing experience. But that was because we had communication way before we started going at this. So the process behind the scene on the development thing is this was bare ground. So we needed plat approval, rezoning, TIF, and then multiple things had to kind of come together in order for this to happen. So the process is pretty complex, and it takes a lot of time. And you'll see what I mean by time later, right? Here we are, perfect segue. So one of the biggest challenges that we have is the cost of delays. Time is money when it comes to modular homes. So delays extended timelines significantly. And so the carrying costs for these homes increased pretty darn fast because the pressure of all of that funding kind of falls down on you. And then that money starts ticking really fast. And at the end of the day, it's not just time, right? It's a lot of money that kind of goes along with that. So the financial reality is there's a huge upfront cost and risk that goes along with modular, and that's you have to put your money into it right away. And interest starts immediately, delays increase financial pressure. So as you could tell here, that is Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. Speed is not an option. It is critical. It is a huge part of modular homes and something very important in the whole thing. So be friends with your lenders. Just a little bit of a shout out for the Center for Rural Affairs. It met their mission. We came together and they were willing to put out a loan for us at a lower interest rate. And it helped us. It has helped us so much in getting these homes done and built and out there, and at an affordable price too, because we're not racking up as much interest as we would with a traditional lender. Another challenge that we've had is community resistance, is facing concerns. So the nearby residents, of course, came in and they raised all of their concerns. Anybody who's built any type of neighborhood here knows that the neighbors will come with the pitchforks and torches, and they will burn you alive if you're not careful. They get angry. Not in my backyard is a thing. There's misconceptions about modular housing, and then questions about neighborhood impact. They just don't want their houses to go down in value. They don't want modulars anywhere near them and all of that. So that's a big problem. So we had to actually work on breaking that stigma and changing the perception. So number one thing that I'm out there telling everybody is modular does not equal manufactured. It's not the same thing. So education is very critical. Sometimes the biggest barriers that we're having is that the misunderstanding of terminology here, and that's a big problem. Educating, there we go. So I wanted to do a little bit of education. This is the $10,000 view, modular versus manufactured. There's a big key difference here. So modular homes are built in sections. They meet local state building codes, not HUD codes. They're on a permanent foundation, and they are considered to be real property. Manufactured homes are built on a steel chassis. They're built to a federal HUD code regulation that actually goes from A through H, and it could be your regular trailer home house to actually a pretty magnificently beautiful home that's built. But there's a huge classification in between those two. So you can go from just walls that are a shell to actually a pretty nice looking home. The problem is you don't have any way to classify those, and it's very scary for a lot of people. And they're often not on a permanent, fixed foundation. And also they depreciate different. So banks do not like those. They get very mad, and anything you can pick up and move, banks absolutely hate. So don't do that. It really does come down to that chassis being in the steel chassis on the bottom, and the HUD code regulations, and then the depreciation is a big deal for banks. Whereas modular homes, they depreciate like any normal home. They do a great job of keeping their value over time, and they increase. So I just wanted to toss that out there because every chance I get, I want to tell people, use the right terminology. There's modular homes and then there's manufactured homes. They're both great. You just have to know what you're using them for, right? And each one of them has their own purpose. So educating the community, we have to build that trust. So show them the product, show them the houses, and you'll be able to see some of the houses here at the end. You can't tell the difference between a modular home and a stick-built home. If you can, good for you. You know what you're looking at there, but there's not much differentiating both of these. Invite people to tours, share outcomes, tell the story, and when people see it, they'll understand. They'll know right away. Your banks will know right away, like, oh, this is a pretty solid product that we have here. Something I really wasn't expecting was subcontractors. There's a lot of fear going on the subcontractors, and we have a pretty good pulse on our community here. So we get all of the rumors that go around. And the subcontractors were trash talking us a little bit. And that was interesting to me because, well, a lot of them are, we know them very well and we're friends and all of that. And ultimately, I went up to the couple of them that I know very well, and I'm like, "What's up, man? What's going on? Like why trash talk it? This is a great product. Everything looks great and all of that." So, and what they ended up telling me is like they were afraid of, and this is a contractor that I knew very well. So he said, a lot of people are afraid that we're going to lose jobs to this. And then there was going to be kind of a shift in the construction roles that they were going to have. I really wasn't expecting that. That's something that just kind of came out of nowhere. So something that I would add now is reframing the opportunity, and letting the contractors know that it's going to be more work instead of less work. So modular homes, in fact, have added more work to them, instead of actually reducing work. So there's potential year-round work for them, and it reduces seasonal slowdowns for them as well. So they'll be able to work inside, because most of the electrical, plumbing, all of that kind of happens at the factory, and then you have to bring in your subcontractors to essentially plug her in, right? And of course, that was putting a little bit of fear across all of our contractors. But what I wanted to tell them is like, we're not going to stop stick building. Stick building is going to happen all summer. The problem is we have a huge delay in the winter where we don't have as much work going on. And what we want to do is add more work to you, maybe not as labor intensive, but we want to be able to get you some of those contracts inside of the house instead of having to work outside. So this isn't really replacing the work. We're hoping to expand the work for them. So let's get to the advantages now. So big advantages on here is site prep, home construction at the same time. You could do this all at the same time. Know your schedule, you know your opportunities. You can reduce that timeline significantly if you're ready. And it really does increase scalability. So you can put a lot of houses down. So major win is speed in production. I love this movie again. And I feel like this was the whole modular experience, the movie Speed, if you've ever watched that movie. They can't go under 60 miles an hour, otherwise the bus blows up. So that's kind of sometimes how it felt with this. So we were able to complete 15 units in 4 months. All 15 of those units were done by the factory. 7 townhomes, 1 single family, and then they were ready at Bonnevilla. So during that time, we weren't ready on the site prep and getting all of that done. So that kind of slowed us down a little bit. And that's where I'm telling you, I felt like we were going 80 to 100 miles an hour, and all of a sudden we were slowing down significantly. And that's where we started to feel some of the pressure of interest rates and all of that coming along. So I wanted to share some key lessons that we kind of got from this. And it's that relationships really do matter. Strong builder, you need a slash dealer is what they're called. You have to have a very good relationship with them, because you're going to be in constant communication. So it's just part of the process. You need to communicate with them. You need to be in constant, just have that ability to figure out where you're at in the process, and you need to be able to relay that to everybody who's involved. Key lesson number 2, engage early with your city, and then push to expedite everything, the platting, the zoning, the TIF, all of that to get done. We had a huge slowdown here just because it was new to the city of Columbus, and they had to figure it out themselves too. So they had to figure out what they were going to write, what codes were applying locally, and what things were going to go in. Tight timelines. Build your timeline super tight. Modulars require precision. Delays compound quickly. That money starts stacking up, and your timeline essentially becomes your lifeline here. And key lesson number 4 is your cost per unit improves with scale. So the crane comes, and you need to use that the most efficient, because that's going to cost what it's going to cost to put there. So once you get there and you're building a bunch of houses, it reduces that mobilization. Doing one at a time is just not cost effective. So doing a lot of them creates a little bit more opportunity because you're dividing that cost of that crane across multiple units as opposed to one. So have a construction strategy, plan, design, execute, monitor, and then deliver. So group install, you have to maximize the time you have that equipment there and then reduce any inefficiencies that you may have. A couple of things that I wanted just to tell you guys was build different. Don't wait for the perfect conditions, explore new solutions, and then partner with purpose. Like know who you're going to work with, how things are going to function, and how do you move some of this, some of these projects forward? Because ultimately, what we're trying to do is build affordable housing. So keeping that price down is essential to what we're doing. And the first time it may not work out as great. Let's give it a try. Let's try something different. Let's try it again. Let's become more efficient at it and see how we can do a better job of it. So I have some pictures here for Quail Meadows. This is the subdivision we built. So this is just the bare ground. We're kind of starting to do some dirt work here. And you can kind of see the progression as we move forward. So we poured the streets in, got all that in, and this was done pretty close to the winter, by the way. Foundations were poured and ready to go. So here are and I don't know if any of you have seen these babies come in, but they're coming in hot. They're coming in fast. And sometimes you're scared. You're like, there's a house on top of that trailer. So there they all are. And those are the modulars that kind of come in. There they are racing the roofs, literally. So this is the most nerve-wracking thing that I've seen in a while, especially after seeing a couple of mishaps there. I think it's just nerve-wracking every time you see, 15, 20,000. Yeah, it's not a fun thing to witness, but it was entertaining for sure. There are the houses on the ground, and as you could tell, this is winter. There's snow on the ground and ready to go. So subcontractors were able to come in and do some of that work there. And we built the garages on site, and that was a big portion of what we wanted changed on the plans, is we wanted to make sure that we had room to build our garages on site. And this is our single family home. So we had this full project's going to be 32 townhomes, 14 single family homes for a total of 46 units. And something I kind of wanted to mention on here is we had 15 units that came in and were placed by the cranes. As you can tell on here, that's a lot of units. We had that done in 4 days. So it went from having no houses whatsoever to we had 14 different units that we were all working on within a 4 to 5 day period. The crane came in and they just installed. This was again in the middle of the winter to put all of these houses on. All right. And I don't know, Sherry, do you want to show some of the pictures of the inside here quick and share some of that?
Yeah, I think we can, Sherry. Okay. We've got I'll just visit the chat box while she's pulling that up. Brian from the Center for Rural Affairs has provided some information about their housing development lending. So if that is something of interest to you, the link is provided in the chat box. And then there was a question from Jeff about was part of the modular versus manufacturing info fueling any resistance coming from the local subcontractors? And did you touch on that a little bit? Was it the modular versus manufacturing?
Yeah, the subcontractors, they didn't really know much of the difference on it as well. So I think they were concerned about too. I find that a lot of people don't know the difference between modular and manufactured. Just because the houses are manufactured in a factory. I think everybody calls it manufacturing, and that's really, we need to figure out something completely different to call this.
Okay.
Yeah, it just seems like there is a lot of miscommunication on that end of things, but I don't know any other way to help people besides going out there and just telling everybody the difference.
Sure. And then Jeff had a follow-up question about the townhomes. Noticing that the garages are on the end of each unit, was there any discussion related to having the garages together as a more sound control between the living areas?
There was. I don't think we could have gotten it all done. It wouldn't have mattered much on the modular side of things. We'd have to change the plan significantly to make it happen. And
Okay.
it wasn't going to actually, in the living area, it wasn't going to do much for them. So we decided to just separate them. The doors worked out well. Bonnevilla was the only one willing to talk to us about actually being able to change the blueprint. So we took what we could get on there and customized it to our liking. So here's the
Okay.
single family house that you see on there. And here we have some sidewalks and poured, so looks pretty nice. And the inside, like I said, looks great. So we're still doing some dirt work on here.
Yeah, I like that open concept. That's appealing to
Yeah.
your clientele. How big are the units,
This
Kelvin?
one, this one is 1,424 is the single family. And we wanted to build one single family modular because we want to experience it ourselves. And what I mean by that is we want to be in it, we want to see it, how it looks, how it all functions, along with how does it work with our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So the City of Columbus and the Nebraska Department of Economic Development gave us that DPA loan that went along that we're going to be able to put into this. So to give you a perspective, this house is, 1,400 square feet. We're selling it for 348,000, which to me seems it is a little high for affordable housing, but we could put 40,000 of DPA into it. So can someone at 120% AMI with a family, this is 3 bedroom, and then we stubbed all of our houses, basements. We put 2 egress windows so you can build 2 additional bedrooms on there. And the homeowner could do it. And then we stubbed the bathrooms in there. So if they want to put a bathroom in there, it'll be easy to do that. So a family of 5 that's making $130,000, could they afford this home at $308,000? Everything indicates that they can pretty easily. So we want to. There's nothing like lived experience. We want to experience it, see how it works. If this is a concept that works, then we'll continue to do that. Here is the townhome. So here's one side of the townhome. And these are 1,127 square feet. And these are selling for $290,000 with 20 to 30,000 DPA. So a person could potentially get into this home for a mortgage of $260, which it seems like the average in Columbus is like $270. Like these are houses that are already built. for sale, which is crazy to think about.
I may have missed it, but bedrooms, how many bedrooms?
This one's a 2-bedroom, same thing. We put 2 egress windows at the bottom, kind of framed out a little bit. So if someone wants to continue to build a family in that home, they could. They just have to put a wall with a door in there. The egress is already in there. That's kind of the difficult part about expanding in the basement. Along with the bathroom is stubbed downstairs as well. So if they want to put a bathroom in there, it'll be fairly simple for them to do that.
Okay. And we've got
All the
some,
appliances
ahead.
are also included. So we have a refrigerator, a stove, and a dishwasher that kind of go all into that.
Okay. A carpenter in the group is asking who built the load-bearing wall. It looks like everything has a basement, correct? And then his follow-up is who built the load-bearing walls?
So
Did you sub that out?
Yeah, everything was subbed out. And we just had our local subcontractors who build stick-built homes come in and make sure everything looked all right, and they did a good job of doing that. A lot of them were very impressed with what we had. The load-bearing walls were built by our partner, our builder, who builds all the time. So after we poured the basements in, they came in and they built those out.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have to have those ready to go by the time you set it on.
Right. Because once those start arriving, you don't have any time to waste.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, time is
Yeah.
money. That's the biggest lesson I have from modular homes is time is money for sure.
Okay. Susan wants to know what lessons have you learned, and is there anything you would do differently?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's just so many lessons that I've learned throughout the whole process, and that was the whole key lesson thing is you have to make sure you're working with the right people. I know Brian was kind of putting some stuff on there, the Pew from CFRA. Just having a lender who understands that you need your mission, which is affordable housing, is incredibly important. Having the right builder partner to build out those bearing walls, making sure they're honest with you, telling you what you need, making sure you're all in the same team there is incredibly important. And then there's a saying that it's measured twice and cut once, right? It kind of goes along with this. Make sure you're planning a significant amount of time into your planning. So when you're ready to cut, you only cut that once and you're not running into a lot of bumps in the road. Use your strategy. Make sure the time frame is perfect. Don't order your units too soon. You have to make sure you're gone through some of the processes. TIF took us a long time to get, and we just ran into a lot of issues there. Usually when we go through a subdivision in Columbus, it goes pretty fast. When the modular project came to be, there was a lot of neighbors who were concerned, were angry. They didn't want us in their backyard. Of course, when you mention affordable housing, sometimes that has a stigma that goes along with it, and not in my backyard kind of thing. And it was a quiet area. So I think a lot of them were just disturbed by that. And so we went through a lot more city hall meetings than I wanted to, but we had to address everybody's concerns, make sure all of the legitimate concerns were addressed, and we took care of them, and then spent a lot of time educating people on it.
That was one of my questions. How did you turn the NIMBYs into YIMBYs? But it really wasn't a magic pill. It was more just constant education and making sure that they felt heard and addressing and answering their concerns. So,
Yeah, and yeah, we legitimately like to answer the concerns that are real concerns, right? There are some concerns like all of you have built, and people come with their concerns, and there's just no way around it, or no way to actually make sense of their concerns, right? But some people do come with legitimate concerns, drainage issues, how are things going to work? And you have to address those and make sure you give them peace and comfort, because ultimately this is our city, it's our town. We see people all the time. It's not like we're a massive city. I walk into the local YMCA and I see 5 or 6 of the neighbors that are there. So we want to make sure we're very invested into our cities and addressing all of the concerns that they have.
Okay. I think you said 15 houses in 4 months, but what's the turnaround time once they start a unit at Bonavilla?
I think man, they say about 2 weeks is what they have it, but they were pumping them out almost every week. They
Okay.
just kept sending us progress reports on getting them done. I don't know if they were a little bit slower during that time or what, but they were moving. And those houses were great. And so we were able to send our housing managers out to Aurora and check each unit as they were being churned out, which was really nice for us. Let us in our units, made sure we were checking everything, and we also have a reputation to protect, so we didn't want to bring a product that was subpar to what we would normally want to build with stick built.
Okay. And the process of choosing your subs, was that a bidding process? How did you
So we went out to
navigate that?
Yeah, we went out to bid on that. Modular, of course, has its own issues. We actually ended up hiring a general to take care of that with the dealer. And then since we were fairly new at the modular component of things, the dealer kind of took care of the subcontractors from there on out. And that was very helpful. We just told them use local, stay as local as you can, of course. And the foundations were poured from a local contractor. The framing for the bottom was done by a local contractor. The electrical and plumbing that had to be done was done by local contractors as well.
Okay.
And we would do that
Good.
in any city. If we get any type of general, the only stipulation we put, whether we build here in Columbus, Norfolk, and Schuyler, we say go for local first. Sometimes it's not possible. But I mean, that is a big thing we want to do. We want to make sure we're giving work to the locals.
Okay. So what questions do you have for Kelvin? Anything that maybe sparked an idea for you or was an aha for you?
For me,
For anybody, any participants? Yeah. Well, if nobody has anything to share, oh, here's a question. Let me pull this up quickly. Tell us about, have all the units sold to the end user, and are the townhomes harder to sell?
actually, the townhome
Tell
is the
us.
one. Those are the ones that are going first. We're working on a purchase agreement. We actually just got these done a week ago and just listed them with the realtor a week ago. And we're working on a purchase agreement right now with home buyer. The biggest challenge I see in us selling them is that these are low to moderate income units. So we have to income qualify every individual buyer for these 15 units. And so, of course, that just takes a little bit of time to go along with the challenge of already building them on modular, right? But 1 weekend and we have a buyer set. We have them income qualified. And they're pretty ready to go. So I'm happy with that. And it was a townhome unit, which always makes us nervous. We've had several people go through the homes already as well, and all of them are very pleased. I think the only complaint I got is the cabinets should have been soft close instead of what they are, or something like that. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, is there a minimum number of units that would make sense in a project? How did you arrive at what you built or constructed?
The grant that we were doing, we're going to do 15 units. So that's kind of
Okay.
how we arrived at that number, which we were confident when we got into it that we were going to be able to do that. Of course, once prices went up, things got a little bit harder to do. So then the time frame kind of slowed down. Yes, if I have to say something, go as big of a batch as you can, because that crane cost is going to cost you the same thing regardless. They're going to bring that big, giant, massive crane there, and they're going to, it's just more efficient. To set that thing up, it takes about 30 minutes to 45 minutes as it is, and to break it down. So there goes about 2 hours of your day, because they have to anchor in and make sure they put the proper weights on the crane. And there's just a lot that goes into that. Once it's set up, that thing could just move from one house to the other. So time is of the essence. I was kind of joking around with the speed thing, but it really is. There's just so many things that go around with that speed that reminded me of that. Is like, just keep your foot on the pedal and keep moving. And that's why you need a very good strategy. You need your timeline to be set. You need to know what you're doing, as far as when those things are coming, how you're going to set up, make sure your foundations are poured, make sure you're framed properly, and all that just takes time.
Okay. Somebody noticed Dave's asking about landscaping in the yards, grass, probably coming soon. What's the timeline for that?
That's what we're working on now. We're working on landscaping and pouring out the rest of the sidewalks.
Okay.
So yeah, January was a very busy month. We had things poured in January, February, and of course, just some delays here and there with TIF and things that kind of slowed us down a little bit. But yeah, once those houses arrived and then they got installed, it goes pretty quick. Making sure you have your subcontractors there ready to go as well is very important, just because you need the siding to be fixed, any issues with the roofing. And we went in there, our housing managers went in there and they inspected everything. And if something didn't look right, we expected them to fix it. We just asked them to please fix some of those issues, and they did. So
Okay.
don't be afraid to
Couple
tell.
more. Yeah. Couple more questions for you. Is there a requirement on the yards for underground sprinklers, either through covenants or other mechanisms, or is it completely up to the purchaser?
There is no requirement for sprinklers on there. We will probably put some in there for them, just depending on the situation. We are actually looking at sprinklers. I've had way too many conversations about sprinklers this week. But yeah, it is nice to keep them going. Again, the biggest issue that kind of comes from this is what is affordable and what is a commodity versus that is not. Where do our clients fit in between all of that, and can we make this work for them, and then can they do it in the future if they need to on some of the things like sprinklers or any additional things that kind of go along with that. We are going to put trees, and that's NeighborWorks. We're going to do that. We require at least 2 trees in our homes, and we do that through our NeighborWorks Week projects. We go buy the trees and then we go plant them on the homes themselves, whether it has somebody in there or not. But we like to see greenery if we can.
Okay. And then a question about how you were able to sell or get TIF by the school board. Was there any contentiousness with that issue?
Yeah, Columbus is actually pretty great about TIF. School board is great. Like I said, we know the group pretty well. And Columbus is going through a tough time in the school as well. They're pretty overcrowded and tried to pass a bond like 3 or 4 times. So we were a little bit concerned, but they were very supportive. They understand we need housing. It's actually fairly easy when everybody needs employees and people and factories can't or won't expand because they're saying, hey, we're trying to bring people in and we can't find housing for them. So that helped us a lot during the TIF process. And I think there's also, there's a stigma behind modular and manufactured. I think there's also a stigma on TIF and how that functions and how that works. I think we need more education on TIF and letting people know how it works and how it functions and how important it is to make projects work.
Thank you. Well, our last question for the day as we begin to conclude is, and Kelvin, maybe you've already touched on this, but what is one last piece of advice or something you really want to push home with our participants today, what is something you want to leave with them today?
Um, Build different. We're here to build affordable housing, and sometimes I think all I hear is it's impossible or it's very difficult to do. Just build different. Don't be a perfectionist. I love to be, but um, there is no perfect condition. Just explore the new solutions that are out there. I would love to 3D print a home at some point, and then partner with purpose. Make sure you have the right partners in place, and that includes the cities. The city of Columbus is just such an amazing city. It has great leadership. And then, of course, our lender, CFRA, I've mentioned them multiple times here. And then our builder, making sure that he knows local contractors and is willing to work with them. So have that purposeful. That's part of your strategic plan. Make sure you're planning for those things if you can.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kelvin Izagira, for being our presenter today. We've got your contact information there again on the screen. If you want to reach out to Kelvin, feel free to do so. I'm sure he's got a lot he wants to share and can maybe perhaps make your path a little easier or at least a little bit more informed if you pursue modulars in your community. So today's webinar, as well as our past webinars, are on our HomeNE.us website. That is a searchable website. So perhaps TIFF is of interest to you. Just type TIFF into that search bar and you'll see several webinars that come up with that had TIFF discussed or as a topic. So feel free to check that out. Today's webinar will be up in a few days. So if you want to go back and revisit something or check out the slides. So I think there was a request for your slides, Kelvin. If you're okay with us sharing those, we'll be
Yeah, for
happy to
sure.
do that. So,
Yep.
okay. And our next webinar is on the third Thursday in June, which this year is June 18th. So be watching for that marketing as we get closer to the date. So, any last thoughts or comments, Kelvin?
Just one small thing. I think the phone number there, and I'm sorry I didn't catch this before, but it's supposed to be 402-379, and I think it's 479 on the slide. It's
Okay.
379-3311.
Okay. We will get that corrected and we will note that on our webinar then. So once again, thank you to all of you who've joined us today, and we look forward to seeing you again next month. So have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Kelvin. Thank you again.